This is Long Shots, VSiN's premier golf betting podcast. Here's Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, and Kelley Bydlon.
It is Long Shots Golf Betting Podcast here on the VSiN Podcast Network. Matt Brown, Kelley Bydlon, Wes Reynolds coming to you as we make the swing over to Florida. We're done with the West Coast here for a little bit, fellas, and done with the bumpy POA. On to some other greens and all of that, but we'll take a quick look back to this past week in which small loser for me, if we're doing some housekeeping. So small loser for me. Jacob Bridgman goes out and gets it done in fairly impressive fashion. I mean, the thing is, and why I say that is he put himself in a position that he didn't have to do anything on Sunday. He had such a big lead that there was almost no catching him. And so with that, he didn't have to go out and show out on Sunday, and he didn't. Doesn't really matter. That's a $4 million check is hitting his account here in the 700 FedEx points and all of that for Bridgman after a interesting Sunday at Pebble Beach. He follows it up with another very, very, very good tournament. And Wes, like you sit here and you look and we see this leaderboard, let's just put it this way. Closer than it kind of really was, because like we said, Bridgman had opened up such a lead that he played fairly conservative as he should have on Sunday. Didn't really go for it. Didn't have to, because it would have taken one of the rounds of the tournament and then him to also play badly for him to have lost that lead. And that ended up not being the case. And here Jacob Bridgman is, young guy that we've talked about in the models here for the last, 18 months or so. And he gets across the hump as well. Just another guy we can add to the ever-growing list of young guys that are super talented on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and hindsight, of course, is always 20/20 with this. But looking at Jacob Bridgman, because it's like, okay, this guy's playing well, but now he's in a signature event. It's like, is he going to win this event against this field? You looked at the form. T4 at the Sony, T13 at the Amex, T18 at Phoenix, T8 at Pebble Beach, and I feel like stupid for not having him on the card. It's like, what am I doing, man? This guy was playing so well. I settled for another runner-up with Rory, and you're right, Matt. It's not like he was right there the whole time, because Rory never really put any pressure on Jacob Bridgman, and I thought he might be able to playing in that final group. And you look at Rory, there's a lot to be encouraged about. The fact that he was number one in ball striking. He was number two with the irons. We know how good he is off the tee. But if you look at the 2 rounds, Saturday and Sunday, 40th and 45th out of 51 players for strokes gained putting. I don't think he made a putt outside of 5 feet until like 18 on Sunday, when it's like, okay, then he shares runner-up with Kurt Kitayama. So, Rory just got to get the putter going, but obviously the ball striking is on point. But Bridgman, I think, was the much-deserved winner, and he just put such a gap that none of these guys were going to go, even though it got a little bit nervy at the end with how he played the last couple holes, but he had such a buffer that McIlroy, Kitayama, who I think shot like 8 or 9 under on Sunday, Adam Scott was certainly in the mix as well. Aldrich Potgieter was in the mix. So to your point, like we said, off the tee was going to be important, and you had some bombers certainly up there, but ball striking's always, most often than not, going to win at Riviera, and it certainly did. Bridgman, number one in approach, also number one in putting.
Kelley, I had 4 outrights last week. All 4 finished T7 or better, but none of them win. How much money does that win me? $0 to have 4 outrights, all T7 or better. That gives me 0 money. So, yay, so happy about that. At least Colin did hold on and get inside the top 10 to make it just a small loser for me this week. But, I think another one of the stories here, Kelley, and, we talked about it heading into this tournament. Another week, another tournament in which Scottie Scheffler goes out and plays bad in the first round and has to claw his way back. It does end up costing him his top 10 streak as he finishes T12 in this thing. But, it's a very weird deal. I mean, the best player in the world plays like it for the last 3 days of a tournament, but does not do it on the opening day and gets himself in such a hole that he can't really go out and really make a run at these things. I don't expect it to continue, but at this point, we've done it 3 tournaments in a row now, so certainly something we got to keep an eye on.
It's on the list of most fascinating things going on in sports and sports betting. It ranks number 3rd on Kelley's list right now. I have a running list just in case you want 1 and 2. Nobody really cares about this, but the Dallas Mavericks tanking Cooper Flagg's Rookie of the Year season would be number 1. And what the hell happens with Darren Peterson is number 2. Very, very fascinating time in the sports world to me. It's Matt, Gil brought it up to me yesterday, and I'm like, I almost hated for it to happen because undeniably it has to be a talking point for the next, I don't know, 6-8 weeks. Like anytime this guy doesn't get off to a hot start on Thursday, it's a fair talking point. I mean, I bet him last week. It was dead in the water 8 holes in. It's wild. You can't explain it. I did a podcast earlier in the off season with Byron Lindeque, and we were talking about. I remember talking about it on this pod, like the first one we did. Like Byron and I went over like first round scoring marks from like a year ago. It's like not only was he the best on PGA Tour, it was his best round of the year on average was the first round, and it wasn't even close. So it's not like this is a thing that's always been a thing with Scottie Scheffler, but the fact that it's happened 3 tournaments in a row now, man, it's wild. I don't want to rub the salt in the wound anymore for you, Matt, but I still can't believe what I'm looking at with Adam Scott. Like to have the 2 lowest rounds of the tournament and not win is like an incredible feat. And somehow he did that with a couple 70 to 72 Thursday, Saturday. That was brutal. Yeah. And to Wes's point, tip of the cap to Jacob Bridgman, I guess, because I think all 3 of us probably ignored him in some aspect, one or the other with that start to the season. We kind of made our own plans in our heads of why we were not going to use him. And hey, look, he cost me money, man. It was a losing week for me after a few good ones in a row. So right back to the Cognizant now.
Yeah, it is. And something for us to kind of tuck away for next year at Riv, if this continues to kind of play like this. I mean, you look at the leaderboard, and then you look at the average drive distance this past week. Pot Guider is your number 1 in the field. You know where he ended up in the leaderboard. Jake Knapp, Marco Pinch, Minwoo Lee, Adam Scott, Rory McIlroy. All of these guys that were bombing it out there are all at the top of the leaderboard for this. So again, something we can tuck away. If we get conditions anywhere even close to what we got this past, if there's any rain whatsoever leading into this thing, we know how to make the model for next year. It's going to be, you put it in, the dudes that hit it far, and they're going to end up at the top here and able to fire at it. And so that's kind of one of the things that did jump off the page here to me yet again this week, is just these guys that hit it a long way. And I think we're just going to end up having to talk about that a ton as the season moves on, and maybe even again as we move in here to the Cognizant at PGA National over at Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, Kelley's old stomping grounds.
That's right, man. The Honda Classic is what we will always refer to it as. Always.
Well, as we said earlier, West Coast swing is over. We're moving over to Florida here. And if you're a VSiN.com subscriber, you can go in and you can get Wes's full write-up to all of this. But Wes, for those who are not, let's give them a little taste of what they're going to be seeing here from PGA National.
Yeah, Honda spent 42 years as the sponsor of this event, but it is now Cognizant. So not only a new sponsor, but what has been an easier course really over the last couple of years. By the way, in 2024, this converted to a par 71 from a par 70, because I believe they made that 10th the short par 5 or short-ish, and you look at it, it's played easier because you had softer greens. By the way, you had a lot of rain last year. So you had softer greens, not a lot of rain in Florida. I know Kelley will get to the weather momentarily, but par 71, 72, 23, a lot of water on this course, 15 of the 18 holes, most on the tour. You got carries over water for your approaches. You can get some wind here that'll push the balls into the water. So this has had the most water balls over any course over the last 20 years. Rough's not really that penal, even though they grew it out to about 3 inches. Bermuda fairways, relatively narrow on the narrow side, but pretty big greens. Bermuda greens now that they're getting away from that POA and back to the Bermuda. 7,000 square feet on average, only slightly above average speed, about 12 on the stip meter. This could play a little bit firmer and faster, though, than last year. And when I talk about like how this course is played easier, before that change to a par 71, This course, which Kelley is well versed in, having attended this event many times, PGA National was like the toughest non-major course on the PGA Tour in like 6 of 10 years. And you had, I think, from 2006 to 2023, I looked this up, you had 11 players shoot 10 under or better. Last year, you had 38 shoot 10 under or better at this course. So it's played a lot easier. Of course, you still have the bear trap, 15 through 17. That's still a pretty difficult 3-hole stretch, but course is just played a ton easier. And I don't expect it's going to like regress to the mean where you're going to be seeing like 8, 9 under win this thing like you did a lot of years, but comparable to, I guess, Bay Hill, Innisbrook, Waialae, which was a shorter par 70. And you've had multiple Cognizant winners that also won the Sony. A little bit Quail Hollow because it's a Tom Fazio design. Sawgrass, Colonial. So this is not a real long course. So you saw these guys tear it up last year. Defending champion Joe Highsmith, 120-1, and then the year before Austin Eckroat won at 110-1. I think 19 under was the winning score last year, 265 on this par 71. So I don't expect. I mean, maybe the scoring is a little bit tougher, but it's not going to be much tougher, I wouldn't think.
Kelley, not the Honda Classic of old that you used to go down there and attend. Yeah. I mean, mainly what this comes down to, and this is more in the weeds for you golf nerds out there, but ever since I've really gotten into the weeds with just golf and equipment and interacting with golf courses and things and stuff like that, is so this time of year, and people who live in the Southeast well know this, if you're a member of a country club and all, like Bermuda's dormant. They used to just play this on dormant Bermuda, which like was incredibly tough to play off of, which is what made this course so incredibly tough. And then they decided to overseed it with rye. And so now it's much, much easier to play off of this time of year in February, as opposed to the dormant Bermuda, which can give you all kinds of trouble in every single aspect. And so, yeah, that's why the last 2 years we've gotten, good scoring. It's going to be that way again this year, maybe moving forward with all of this. Apparently the insiders have come in and said that they didn't like the course looking brown. I mean, it was like a bad representation of the course. Like the marketing of the course was bad because you like on TV, it looked brown and whatever and all that, didn't look inviting. And it look, I can understand some of that, honestly, like, I mean, it's giant. These are giant commercials for these golf courses, these golf tournaments and stuff. And like, you don't want your course looking dead on TV and like everybody like, I'm not playing that course. One, it's hard and it's dead. Like, how do you get people to come and like want to play the course and stuff? So yeah, I mean, I get it and all that, but I mean that it has fundamentally changed how this course presents to these players.
Yeah, and one of the few that I believe the PGA Tour still owns. They don't have a ton that they own, and they had their headquarters there for a while that I know moved out of that area, but I believe they still have ownership of the course. So completely understandable, Matt. Yeah, we were covering this tournament for years. We all thought that they'd make a shift to make it easier at some point to just try to attract some of the bigger names that were around. I mean, it is sad that we've got like half the tour lives within a 15-minute drive of this course, and we can't get a better field every year. Go ahead, Wes. What were you saying?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, this is in such a tough. It's unfortunate for the event because it's in such a tough spot.
Yeah,
in the schedule now, right after the 2 signatures, of course, on the West Coast swing, and then right before Bay Hill, the Arnold Palmer, by the way, next week. And then, of course, the Players in March, having been moved up for May, because this is Jack Nicklaus. I don't know if he's necessarily the host, but he's always been kind of part of this event because he won this multiple times. And then his Children's Healthcare Foundation, which is chaired by his wife, is the beneficiary of this event. So, anything involving Jack, like we see with the Memorial, of course, is usually going to get good players. But we had so many withdrawals this week, too. We had Jacob Bridgman, Ben Griffin, Adam Scott. Like, these were 3 of the top 5 or 6 guys on the odds board, and you end up with only 8 of the top 50 in this week's field.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah,
man.
Patrick
it's
Rogers out of there as well. And Kelley, I'm sure you've got the odds board ready to go here. But I mean, so a weaker field to begin with, and then you get those withdrawals. And then, so what does that leave us with? It leaves us with the odds board in which, yeah, a guy that we've bet a lot, don't get me wrong, but your short shot is Ryan Gerard in this tournament. I mean, like, it's a guy that we've bet a ton, but not anyone you'd ever expect to be like, oh, the short shot of the tournament is Ryan Gerard. And that's kind of where we sit right now, Kelley, as you kind of look at this odds board.
That's where we're at. I know I texted you yesterday, Matt. I didn't even pull up odds yet. Was kind of digging in. I was like, well, I like Gerard, Lowry, and Nikolai Højgaard. And then you pull up the odds board. You're like, okay, well, that's your favorites for the tournament. That's boring. It's just sad. I mean, Wes broke it down with the schedule where it's at. Nothing's gonna change. It's just sad that everybody lives that close, and especially with some of these guys that are, Rory's probably a perfect example, actually, of the. We always used to say, like, okay, they're going to start it over there. They're going to start it over there in the Middle East. Rory's living in South Florida. He comes back to Florida. Maybe he's just going to skip some of the California or West Coast events, and it's a, first or second or third event of the year, just a nice way to tune things up before you go to Bay Hill and players and everything. And schedule's been a nightmare. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But yeah, the course, back to the course conditions, I do think it's interesting, though, from a betting standpoint. I think as we go forward, like 5 years from now, I think we're going to say we like this better because it's easier to handicap. I think with some of those shots coming out, when guys are complaining about how they're hitting it out of the fairways, Matt, like you were talking about, it make golf very tough, right? Then add a water on 15 holes that you could put it in at any time with a bad shot on one of those fairways or off the tee, and then add in potential weather, and this course would go from not, very average scoring to very extremely difficult, depending on all those things overlapping. So I think going forward, removing some of that uncertainty with the agronomy, I think will help things from a betting standpoint, honestly, but it's still new. We're still figuring this out. And the other one, I will go to the weather just right now. It really doesn't look like there's anything to be too concerned about, but hey, it's South Florida. Like, it's South Florida. Yeah, it might be end of February, but still, this stuff can shift at any time. So be very aware of that. The other one, that this is a classic course of, like, I always say this, and Wes usually brings this up. I'm sure he wrote about this too. It's amazing. You don't realize how close to the ocean you actually are when you're on the course. But then you walk out into the golf course, and because it's just a housing development and wide open golf course, there's not much blockage from buildings or trees or anything. So it's almost impossible for you to not walk around out there and think, it's pretty windy. Like, every year I remember being there and be like, it's windier than where I just was 5 minutes ago. So it's just something to keep in mind, that as soon as this ticks up a little bit with wind, it really does affect things out there. And with this much water in play, it can get bad quick. And the other thing it used to do very often, would be dry out these greens and just make it very tough for these guys to be able to stick approach shots consistently onto these greens, which I know has gotten a little easier. And it's part of the reason why I'm saying, I think from a betting standpoint, some of those changes with the grass, I think help it just make it a little bit easier to handicap going forward.
The odds board, just for those that are listening and not watching us over there on YouTube, which, by the way, go in, please subscribe, rate, review. We're growing over there. We could use your support. These are all the names you get to before you get to 50-1. Yeah. Ryan Gerard, Shane Lowry, Nikolai Højgaard, Rasmus Højgaard, Michael Thorbjornsen, Keith Mitchell, Brooks Koepka, Daniel Berger, Davis Thompson, Alex Smalley, Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, Will Zalatoris, Max McGreevy, Bjorborn Olesen, Rico Hoey, Aaron Rai, Christopher Wrighton, Christian Bezadenhout, Haotong Lee, Mac Meisner, and Chris Kirk. Before you get to 50-1, these are all dudes that start at 50-1 in a normal tournament, and we get to every single one of those names before we actually get to 50-1 on this board. So that's kind of the tournament we're leading into. When we read off our picks later and we tell you that the numbers that are attached to them, just understand that's the field that we're dealing with here. And it's just a different animal this week here as we're over there.
And the favorites have even been bet, Matt. Like, this is like these Gerard and Lowry numbers and Nikolai Højgaard, like, these have all come down even from where they mainly opened at.
Yeah. So just keep in mind, that's kind of what we're dealing with here with this odds board and all of that. So, Wes, given what we know, and kind of like you said, I mean, this tournament is definitely shifted over the last 2 years. It's kind of tough to go too far back with course history with all of this. So what did you end up deciding you were going to base the model around?
Yeah, the trends that I usually have a couple little nuggets of like, okay, what did the winners have in common here? And it's almost a little bit obsolete. You can still look at them in context because of the course and the schedule changes. International players, by the way, have done very well here. 10 of the last 19 years. Don't have to worry about a lot of major champions because we don't have a lot of major champions necessarily in this field. But from a stat standpoint, I start with approach. Lack of rain here lately in South Florida, unlike last year where these greens were super soft. They may be a little bit firmer and might not hold as many of the approaches. So last 5 of the last 7 years, tournament winners been 8th or better in approach. So I did use approach. From an off the tee standpoint, you have a lot of dog legs and water hazards. So you're not going to hit driver like really all that often. So it's one of the shorter average driving distances on tour, and the accuracy is right at about 60%. It's tough to gain actually off the tee here. So I did examine that a little bit. Scrambling, you're going to miss the greens 40% of the time. And like I mentioned, sometimes you hit a good shot, green might not hold. I'm assuming these are a little bit firmer than last year. So you're going to have to scramble. So you could do a little scrambling or maybe around the green if you like. Bogey avoidance, even though the scoring is lower, you do have stretches, especially that bear trap 15 through 17, where you'll take pars, all 4 days basically in that stretch, and then see if you can pick one up at 18. In terms of the proximity buckets, I think 150 to 175, 175 to 200, probably where you want to look the most. Par 4 birdie or better percentage is another one that I did look at, because the par 4s are usually like the meat of this course, even though this course hadn't had a lot of meat or a lot of just heft to it. These guys have been scoring so low, but I still think the par 4s can be a little bit on the more difficult side. Bermuda putting, especially recent, like last 24 rounds. So that means you have to go back to the 2025 calendar year because they hadn't putted on a lot of Bermuda to start the season. And that's basically what I did, because I've had to remove a lot of like the course experience or the course history type of stuff. Because if you look over the last couple of years, I think Joe Highsmith played this one time. He missed the cut the year before, and then he wins the thing. I think it was very similar to what happened with Austin Eckroat too. So you don't really have, miscut is the form for Austin Eckroat. So you really don't look at too much course history. Some guys have very good ones, but especially like a Shane Lowry with a top 5 in 3 of the last 4 years. But you'll get a lot of erratic form here, so I didn't put any weight into that.
Yeah, Kelley, I don't know if you differed anything on your end. I actually, if I were to differ from Wes a little bit, I actually think driver is going to get pulled a decent amount here. These guys have gotten so good with driver, and like it's just one of those deals. I mean, since they changed the way this course plays the last 2 years, it's up 20%. The usage, it was like it was right at 40% up until 2024, and then it's up over 60% now. I think even more guys use driver. They're just so much more comfortable with it and all of that and everything. So I did factor in some driving distance. It's kind of like total driving, which blended in distance and accuracy, right? But I did put that in there as a focus here because I do believe in just the variance in the nature of all this, which is if you're driving it good, cool. If you're driving it in the water, it doesn't matter if you're hitting it with a 3-wood or a 5-iron or whatever. It's just about accuracy more than anything else. So like really heavy good drives, really heavy on kind of like the total driving for me.
Yeah, that's kind of how I do it every year as well. I don't think there's. It's interesting to hear how much the usage has changed, but yeah, it's you want to be accurate to set up a good approach shot. I think this is such a heavy second shot course, and obviously keep it out of the water, which you've got 15 holes. You got to contend with that on. But there will be times for a lot of guys where they do club down for sure, like Wes is talking about. There's also some holes though where these guys can let it rip, and like you're saying, Matt, a lot of these guys are just, some of them are just more comfortable with the driver in their hands than others. And as long as you're confident keeping it out of the water, good, pick whatever the hell you want. Approach, I focused a lot of the same proximity that you talked about, Wes. Yeah, kind of that 125, 200 range, really locked in. Did use like green and regulation here, which I don't normally use very often as an approach stat. Just you were talking about it. I did some scrambling around the green, bogey avoiding stuff too, Wes. But yeah, just the guys that can get this up and on the green, give themselves a look at the putt. It's going to be big here. I think also with shifting that one hole, I've done a little bit, like the driving stuff I'll do this with often at this course, right? How much of my distance am I factoring in a little bit more this time, but accuracy, right? It's coming down. That's what I've done with the par fours, par fives too, right? You switch out a par four for a par five. I'm factoring in par five, scoring a little bit more now, and the par four scoring a little bit down, but I am looking at both. I think they're both important here. And then, yeah, you guys hit on pretty much everything else. Birdie or better, and some putting stats for me as well as we switch over to Bermuda.
I guess just from a time frame perspective for me, I will say that given how we've seen this course play, I mean, again, we've seen a sub 60 round here and everything, you know, like and these guys are all awesome. I mean, granted, we were kind of joking about the names and the odds attached to them and all this, but again, I'll say this: if you're joining us for the very first time, you find us on YouTube. Every single one of these guys is the best golfer you've ever seen in your whole life. If they showed up at your course and you played with them, they're still the best golfer you've ever seen. So if these are benign conditions and we don't get much wind, these dudes can go and mess this course up so long as you're not hitting it in the water. And so with that, I did do like a blimp view and like did like a 70 round, and then I kind of did like a 50 round, and then I did like a 24 round, which, you know, if you hadn't missed a cut, that's like your last 6 tournaments. If you missed a cut, last 7 tournaments, something like that. And so I did kind of like balloon out too, just to kind of be like, all right, is a dude usually good at this, but maybe he hasn't been lately? And if that's the case, then if he can keep from hitting it in the water, then maybe he's worth a shot or something. And of course, we'll see if I ended up on any of those guys, but I did want to at least give how I looked at it, because I do think that this is a course that if you run good off the tee, which, you know, that's a big if, but if you run good off the tee, there's going to be 3 names on Sunday that are in the top 10 of this leaderboard that would are on none of our radars, just because it's like they ran pure off the tee that week, and then it's going to be
water, made putts.
So, yeah. So anyway, that's kind of the way that I went at it. So Wes, you threw that stuff into your model. It spit some stuff out, and guys, we're going to shift it a little bit here moving forward. We're going to kind of focus on the shorter guys first, and the guys we have like a little bit more conviction in, so that we can spend more time on those guys, and then we'll circle back around to kind of the longer shot plays, so that we make sure to give the time to the guys that we have a little bit more confidence in. So Wes, we'll start with you on those guys.
To your point, Matt, you did mention, by the way, the lower scoring. Jake Knapp set the course record, I remember, here last year at 59 in the first round and ended up T6. So it's like, how do you not win when you shoot 4 better and shoot a 59 in the first round? But that's what'll happen here. So in terms of the shorter guys, look, Ryan Gerard and Shane Lowry certainly make a lot of sense. Lowry's always been good here. Ryan Gerard in good form. He was, I think, 4th here on debut. He made a couple years ago, but I just couldn't play Ryan Gerard in the teens, because he hasn't really proven it yet. At least Shane Lowry has in terms of winning, as has not necessarily on the PGA Tour, but Nikolai Højgaard at 22-1. Number 1, by the way, for strokes gained off the tee, and he's number 1 in 3-putt avoidance. He's number 1 in bogey avoidance. If you look at his 2026, been a little bit uneven, but he's had some peak events. 4th in Dubai, 3rd in Phoenix. He's been 11th or better in 4 of his last 6 worldwide events. He's also one of those guys, and there's quite a few of them here this week, that are kind of in that 50 to 70 range, or a little bit below 50 in the official world golf ranking. And you got about a month right now to try to get in that top 50 in order to get that Masters invite. Rasmus, of course, already in for Augusta in April. He's also 2nd in the Swing 5, so he's trying to get that spot in the Arnold Palmer, which would certainly improve his world ranking to be in an elite field like that. Respectable 18th here last year. I think Nikolai could go very well. A guy that's always gone pretty well here, or at least most of the time, Daniel Berger, 40-1, who was actually a late entry into the field, considering he's played this since junior golf. He was runner-up on debut, lost that playoff to Patty Harrington in 2015, couple 4ths here. Didn't really play great his last 2 events on the West Coast, but he was tops in approach at Phoenix, and he was 6th earlier in the season overall at Hawaii. He's also a guy that's won on some correlated courses like Colonial, TPC Southwind, so I wouldn't be shocked to see Berger play well here. And then a guy I hadn't played in a while because he hadn't been playable in a while because he missed about 7 months due to the back surgery, Will Zalatoris, 42-1, who came back in South Africa last December, was 15th at the Nedbank against a decent field, 18th at the Amex before he missed the cut at the Farmers, but he missed it by like 2 shots, and he just putted poorly on POA. So I'm willing to dismiss that for Zalatoris. Schedule's light because he's not in the signature events since he missed most of last season, didn't get all those FedEx Cup points, but been striking the ball well, like top 16 in this field for the season, off the tee and approach. I think he'll prefer these Bermudas as well. And then 2 more kind of in the mid-range here. Christian Bezuidenhout at 47-1. He's got 4 top 10s in his last 8 events dating back to last fall. Did miss the cut at Phoenix, which ended a 12-cut made streak that dated back to, I think, the John Deere last summer. We know what this guy is. And I've bet him probably more than I should and haven't been rewarded. The short game is one of the best in the world. Putting, scrambling around the green, he's always up there. He's always up there, too, for bogey avoidance and 3-putt avoidance. And that carries him because he doesn't really gain a lot off the tee. Approach numbers have been a little bit better, though, in 2026, so I was willing to give him a shot. And then just above 50-1 at 52-1, Johnny Kiefer. And if you don't know who he is, he was number 1 on the Korn Ferry points list last year, won twice, so that earned his card. He's made all 4 cuts on the tour so far. He's number 1. Kelly mentioned greens and regulation. GIR might be a little more important this week. Number 1 on the tour for that stat. Number 9 off the tee. Number 10 on approach. Unfortunately, he's 137th in putting. But I think maybe going back to Florida is going to help because, when you're not used to those POA greens, maybe your first time through the cycle and playing Pebble and playing Torrey Pines and playing Riviera, you're probably not used to it. So I think Johnny Kiefer will go very well this week at 52-1.
Like it. What, Matt, you're on mute.
Wes and I have 2 of the 3 same, so I'll just go ahead and just kind of glom on here with that, which is I have Zalatoris and Kiefer as well. I only have Kiefer at 50. I have Zalatoris at 42, but so you run the models and you go through, and like I said, I'm trying to be ahead of the game on Kiefer, and this kind of looks like that opportunity to maybe be ahead of before this gets way out of line from a betting standpoint with him. But I mean, we're talking a guy that if I'm just going by, strictly on the model, I mean, the model tells me he is a guy that I'm supposed to be betting here, given the number attached to his name and where he's finishing in all of these models. And like, he would be even higher if he had enough strokes gained rounds, I think, to fill in all the categories that I'm even looking at. Right. And so, as Wes mentioned, can't putt it in the ocean, but we'll see. I mean, outside of that, I mean, he had an amazing lead in to his PGA Tour season here, and so I'm willing to take the risk here that he can get the putter going, because everything else about his game I do like. So I did play him, and then basically with the Zalatoris thing, and I often will talk trash on our programming about trends and things and stuff like that, because I feel like it's data mining. And then I went and I did some data mining of my own. So I went in and I did my model, but instead of the last rounds, I did from February of 2020 until March of 2023. And the reason that is significant is because Will Zalatoris had his first back surgery in April of 2023, right? So like I went from 2020 to 2023, he's number 1 in the model, right? So like pre-back surgery, he would have been number 1 in this field, like in this model, for the way that he was playing. You fast forward, he's had another surgery and all this, but like you read all the stuff he's saying, it's the first time he's felt healthy in 3 years. Like he feels strong again and all of that and yada, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And so with all of that, another deal of just maybe trying to get out in front of a dude that if he starts to put it all together like he did, again, I know it's been a while. I know it's 3 years ago that I'm talking about and all of that, but then he would be nowhere close to the number that you're getting him at right now, especially in this field. And so at 42-1 was a play for me. And like I said, if you go to his healthy stretch before he had the back injury and the back surgery, he would be, not only was he number 1 in that model, but like like over at Rick's model that you run, it gives every player a score. He would be a 96.95 to Daniel Berger's 91.67, who is second in that model. So a full 5-point plus better as far as like the score goes for Zalatoris over Berger. So, I mean, again, it's just to me, if he is getting back into form, if he really is telling the truth and he feels healthy for the first time in 3 years and he feels strong again and all of that, then all of the stuff that we love about him should fit here. And then my other one's just, and let's all laugh together. Mac Meisner. I mean, look, he's number one in he's number one in the 50 and the 24. I mean, like, what do I do? Keep giving my model the middle finger if that's the case and why I'm even running it. But I mean, he's won again. I mean, he's number one again. And so here it is, 52-1 on Meisner. I also took him in a head-to-head over Mackenzie Hughes. I took Shane Lowry as a top 10. I'll let Kelley give the case for Shane Lowry. And then I took Aaron Rai over Brooks Koepka at -137.
Whew.
I mean, Koepka, to me, again, I put in all the stuff, and like Data Golf gives you, like Data Golf lets you plug in your own stuff, and then it will give you the odds, like what your true odds would be.
Matchup odds, yeah.
Like on that player and stuff and all of those things. And it's just like, I am literally 3x the market on Brooks. Like, he's just, until I see it with my own eyes and like I have data to back it up, right? I mean, it's just like there's nothing I can do there. So I took Aaron Rai at a pretty juicy number over Koepka, and we'll see if it plays out.
Yeah, that was one of those. I only had that reaction back because I not like I have any interest in betting Brooks Koepka this week, but not really Aaron Rai either. And I was scrolling through matchups, and that price jumped out to me. That was for sure. I was like, whoa, that's a steep one on Aaron Rai. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I get it. I'm not rushing to back either one of them. Okay, outrights. A whole 2 for me this week. I feel like this is very much like a week ago, and I don't know if so far I feel like I've got a pretty good read on things this golf season. I wasn't very confident last week, and that was a losing week. So I'm going a little bit lighter, but this is also, as we talked about the field, right? This is like a completely different golf tournament from what we've seen the past month. So I start with Højgaard. I'm right there with you, Wes. I think Nico just checking all the boxes right now. You went through mainly everything. I don't really need to add on much more. Second in par 4 scoring, though, last 20 rounds. The bogey avoidance, the scrambling's all there, along with the ball striking. Love what he's done this year. You mentioned a T18 here last year. I think Højgaard's going to be a good look. I think he'll be pretty popular, and rightfully so. So started with him, and then shout out to Sia Nejad, because I really wasn't looking at this guy too closely. It was following him at the Farmers, where he kind of just jumped out. Haotong Li, who was a guy that kind of really came on the radar for me last year, but man, started off this season, I thought he looked really good at a couple tournaments. T8 at the Amex, T11 at the Farmers, and kind of made a note to look back at him, check back in the next time we saw him. It was a couple weeks where we didn't see him. So miscut at Phoenix. He did miss the cut there in his last time he teed it up. So look, little bit of a new guy for me, but it really been kind of examining his game, looking at some of his stats. 11th off the tee last 20 rounds, 20th on approach, first in the par 4 scoring. He's got that all. Doesn't have any experience here, as you guys said, though. It kind of dialed back a little bit on my experience factoring in here as well. So those are the only 2 outrights I'm rolling with. I will say that there's always a chance I had Daniel Berger. Wes and I were talking before the show. I'm pretty sure I've bet him here like every single year. I can't get over the fact that he went to high school like 5 minutes from this golf course and has openly said how many thousands of times he's played this golf course. But guess what? Wind kicks up, you hit a ball in the water, it doesn't really matter. Or in Daniel Berger's case, if you just can't putt, you just can't putt. So I will. I might be adding that at some point. Do love Berger, who was very kind to me when he and I were both getting started, kind of roughly at the same time. So 2 outrights. And then, yeah, Shane Lowry, I went away from the outright number, but I did go in top 10 and top 20 on him, Matt. So, like, I don't think there's much to say. I think he's the class player in this field that we're looking at. We usually like to look at Shane at a little bit tougher places. But look, there's a reason he keeps coming back here. It is T11 last year, T4, T5, second. All of those in the last 4 years is what he's put on the board. He does well here. He's not really scared of these. I think his game sets up pretty great here. Doesn't have to be super long off the tee, right? Even if we think that's important with how good he is on approach, even with the long irons, I think he makes up for it here. He's 8th in birdie or better in the field this week, 10th in par 4 scoring. He's accurate off the tee. And we've seen him this year, and he's done well, right? T24 last week, missed out on a top 20 bet on him, but right back at him. I think top 10 and top 20 this week. We did see him T8 at Pebble and then T26 in Dubai. So Lowry And then, yeah, you guys mentioned I bid on Gerard in top 20. Same guy. I'm kind of avoiding outright price. I'll just play a top 20 on him, though. I don't know if I can get down at 17-1. Yes, I know the top 20 price is going to correlate off of the outright, but still, I'd rather play top 20 with a guy like him. You guys kind of mentioned it with other golfers. This is one of those where I took time to kind of sort my models to try to get out Christian Bezuidenhout and Mac Meisner, because I'm like, oh my God, these guys keep popping up. They keep popping up. I've ignored Meisner before, Matt, so I'm going to ignore him again this week. I ended up with Bezuidenhout in a matchup. That's as best as I could get. I played him over Thorbjorn Olesen in a matchup. But that third guy that was always there was Ryan Gerard. So like you said, Matt, I'm going to try not to completely ignore the model and stick to it to some degree. Gerard, top 20. I will ride with him there. Haotong Lee added a top 20, a little over 2-1 on him. And then Sam Ryder, which this might blow up in my face, but I'm going to take a shot with old Sam Ryder, who does not rate highly pretty much on any model that you will run. The approach numbers are decent. It's been a struggle overall the past couple years for old Sam Ryder. But man, and this is, yes, before the renovations that we have spent a lot of time talking about, he has done well at this golf course, though. He's got T48, T21 the last 2 years, but then a couple top 10 finishes the 2 years before that. So he likes it here. I'm going to rely on that a little bit. A little over 3-1 on a top 20 play on Sam Ryder.
And you had a 10 on you backed up your outright with a 10 on Højgaard as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, so backed up that one as well. Wes, as we head to the long shots here, you got two different guys. One guy, I think I bet him 3 weeks ago in a tournament down. I think he missed the cut, but again, the upside of David Ford is certainly there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for placements, I will put these up tomorrow afternoon at VSiN.com/picks. But I'll start with David Ford, who this morning was 115-1 at DraftKings. I don't think that number's available because this long shot is actually becoming quite popular when you dig into his background. Ford, by the way, the 2025 PGA Tour U winner. That's how Ludwig Åberg and Michael Chorbjornsson each of the last 2 years got their PGA Tour cards, is through PGA Tour U. David Ford was at University of North Carolina, and they have like a point system for some of those college events. So he is a rookie on the tour. And, hadn't had a lot of really close finishes, only a couple of events, but he is number one currently on the tour in total driving for the 2026 season. I know that's not a lot of events, considering we've only played about a month and a half. And also 7th for ball striking. And he also does have a victory here at PGA National. As a junior golfer, the 2020 Rolex Tournament of Champions, he won an AJGA event. And that same year, he also won the Junior Players at TPC Sawgrass. So this guy was a highly ranked amateur. Pedigree is good. Can he go ahead and see it through? I think maybe he can. So I bet him at triple digits. And then another guy that was near triple digits. I hope Matt is right that guys are pulling the driver more this week, because if it is, this guy might play very well, and that's Jesper Svensson at 90-1, who he was a rookie on tour last year, but lost his full card because he was 110th in the FedEx Cup, and he needed to be in that top 100. But he's got conditional status, so he gets in like probably 16, 17 events. This is where you got to take advantage. He is 3rd for total driving, 5th for ball striking, and 6th for strokes gained off the tee. Also top 10 in driving distance. The former 2024 DP World Tour Rookie of the Year, Jesper Svensson.
2 placement market long shots for me. Wasn't willing to pull the trigger on Doug Ghim outright. He modeled pretty well for me actually here in this, but I'll play a top 20 on him at plus 320. My fair odds, again, like best you're going to find is about 75 on him. I had him like 107-1. So I just wasn't really willing to do that, but top 20, 320. David Lipsky weirdly kept showing up in the model like a little bit higher than I thought. And so I go in and I dig in and I'm like, again, not a guy. I think the win equity is almost nothing, but like I'm playing a tail performance out of him, top 10 at 11-1. If you go in and look at what he does, he either finishes in the top 10 or he's terrible. Like it's like nothing in between. He's either terrible or he's in the top 10 for all these tournaments. And so like, okay, I'll play an 11-1 on a guy to have kind of a tail outcome inside the top 10. But it's just funny. Like you go in, you really look, it's like hilarious. It's like T3 cut, T48, T3 cut, T4 cut, T57, 78, T9, T6, outright second. Like, it's just like he's either in the top 10 or gets cut, or he's worse. So whatever. We'll try to play the tail on him. He modeled fairly well for me there for a little bit. And then Adrian and Wes, I'm going to guess here. I know you probably have seen him over there on the European tour. Sadia, I'm guessing he's French, so I'm going to guess it's that. Another guy, you just kind of go in, and he just kept showing up in the model. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I had to go in and I had to look, and then I see like, oh, this guy's got upside. And we've got an outright second for him over there on the European tour, T5. He got a win in 2025 as well, and then not the greatest of starts here to his PGA Tour with, a T70 and a couple of cuts and a T60, but easier field. We're heading back to the East Coast. Maybe that benefits him a little bit better. I don't know a ton about what he brings to the table here, but you can see there are several green across the board performances from him over on the European Tour, and so maybe I can get one of those from him over in this one against a weaker field.
I like it, man. I was laughing a little bit. I wasn't pulling up Lipsky's stuff because I was trying to remember what tournament recently I got really excited about David Lipsky, and I don't know that I had ever bet him before. And I just pulled up my records from last year. Was the Pro Tour? I bet him pretty heavily, and he absolutely sucked, Matt. So yeah, it's I think I had the log deep dive of that as well, and it was like, oh, there might be something here. So better luck for you this week.
Real quick, we got about 3 minutes, some quick one and done discussion. We got asked in the YouTube chat last week, in the YouTube comments last week to talk on that. I'm going to look at ownership projections. I'm probably going to end up on one of the three guys and the shorter shot guys that I have outrights. It's probably going to be Zalatoris, Kiefer, or Meisner for me this week in my own personal outright. Me and Kelley share an outright in a big tournament, so we'll talk that through. Kelley, I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with Højgaard as well. I don't know when we'd use him again. So, I mean, that's certainly somebody that I would consider from a.
Well, my model says Mac Meisner is a good pick too, so I guess I can't really argue that. I would be fine. We'll do this offline. We'll use someone not named Shane Lowry. How about that?
Yeah, Wes, who are you looking at one and done this week?
Yeah, it'd probably be Nikolai for me because, you're still trying to figure out, okay, when is he going to pop again? Because he's certainly got pedigree. He's won 3 events on the DP World Tour, so he's a really good player. But I think against this field, that'd be who I would use as preferred to like Lowry or Gerard.
I can't say for sure, Kelley. I can't say for sure, but like my guess is Gerard is like the most popular pick by a long shot. It's like
I think so too. This is interesting to talk out though, because where does Lowry fit in that, right? Like I think you shouldn't be using Lowry here this week, in my opinion. Like save him for other courses, other events. Might be tough, might show off his game a little bit more, but the history here is, I mean, it's damn consistent, and we do think he's the best player in the field. Like you got that going for you. I think in my other ones, I will be using Højgaard. I actually hadn't thought about it a ton yet, but I think I'll end up on Nikolai as well.
My guess is Lowry and Gerard are like the top 2 by a wide margin. It would be my guess, because people are going to look at that and go, I know they're at the top of the board, but when am I going to use them again? I think that's going to be the logic for most people. So
I think Gerard will be number 1. I think he'll be number 1. I don't know if it's even going to be all that close.
You know who's going to get some ownership who shouldn't? Koepka.
Yeah, he will.
There's a lot of people I've seen that really respect that this weekend, and he should put better on the Bermuda, and he's, it's kind of a home game for him. He's been runner-up here before, but you know what? I need to see it. I need to see it first.
Yeah, the difference
I need to see that he's still got it against if he can't do it against this field, then then we got bigger questions moving forward, right?
Yeah, and look, a lot of the positives that we said about Berger's history here, you could say the same things about Brooks Koepka. Grew up right in the area as well, as played a ton of junior golf here. But like I've talked to both of these guys at the course. It's very obvious Berger has much more experience on this. So it is, you can draw from that what you want to, but I'm with you, man. I have no interest in betting him until I see it.
Like we said, any ads will either be on our Twitter machine or over on VSiN.com/picks. So go in, become a VSiN Pro subscriber. You can do that for as little as $9.99 for the first month. So you can go in, see everything that we got going on, including the Major League Baseball guide, which is out right now. And as baseball season creeps further, a really good resource to get you ready for what's going on. Get ahead of all of this. Nobody's paying attention to baseball right now. So you can go and take advantage of the fact that nobody is, and you can get better numbers before everybody dives in wholeheartedly with all of this. If you're listening on the audio side, you probably already subscribed, but if you just found us, do appreciate you subscribing. If you already subscribed, if you want to go rate and review, that also helps other people find this podcast. And if it's on the YouTube side, thanks for helping us grow. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Let us know in the comment section if there's anything else you'd like us to add here to the podcast. We do read it. That's why we added the little one and done section here, and we will continue to try to help you guys out and make some money, throughout the course of this season. So hit the little bell. You'll know every single time that we post something over there. For Wes, for Kelley, I am Matt. Good luck on all your cognizant bets.